It is Wednesday, the 1st of January 2020. New year, new decade, new experiences ahead for us. But what I thought we'd do for the moment is have a look back at some of the highlights and lowlights of 2019. It is Saturday the 19th of January 2019. I'm in the goat house, and when I came down this morning there was a lovely little surprise waiting for me. Spot had just given birth to a little baby girl. She was a bit earlier than we expected. I was expecting a baby to be born probably by the end of the month. So a few days, week or so early, but nonetheless, a lovely little girl. Spot, when she's had babies in the past, she has always had at least one that is black and white. So she seems to be keeping up the tradition. And here's Daddy. Well, it could be you who's Daddy, or your brother Sonny. But he's come in to, well, get some fuss, but also see the baby, I think. Come on, down here. It is Sunday the 10th of February 2019. I'm over on our far side plot. We call it the far side because it's on the Winnies, but it's at the far side of the Winnies to our house. So this is the allotment where we grow a lot of our soft fruit. We've got a lovely apple tree here which produces tons of fruit, and we grow things like herbs and a few vegetables as well on this plot. And what we were doing a couple of years ago was, and I'm going to sort of swing round to look at the hedge behind me. That hedge was about 5 or 6 times the height it is now, and we cut it all back, and most of it got chopped up for firewood, but some of it got left, and it has been left until now because today I have had the chainsaw in operation and we have been chopping up lots of logs. And the reason we've had to do this is simply because we have run out of logs back home. So we need the logs for our heating system, and because they've been drying off for 1.5, nearly 2 years, then they are bone dry, good for burning. And what we're going to do now is also we're able to use the space that those branches have been occupying, because one of the things that we're planning to do with this allotment is to put some more fencing around it because there's too many gaps in the hedge. But also at some point soon we're going to be creating a goat paddock here, and our billy goats will be going in here because we want to have a bit more control over the breeding. So that means everything around the hedge line has to be cleared. So another good reason for chopping up the branches. So these are some of the ones still to do. A bit overgrown, but as I say, they have been here for nearly 2 years now, so taking up space unnecessarily, so the sooner that they are cleared, the better. David's been out and about on this allotment as well today, because as you can see, some of the beds are being cleared of weeds, and we are now getting the beds ready for spring planting. There won't be anything planted on this bed here, because this is already planted out with gooseberries, as is this bed here. But these beds, some of them still have a few vegetables in, sprouts and cabbages, but they'll be used shortly, probably as animal food. And this is as far as we've got with cutting the hedge back. So as you can see there in the centre is as far as we've got, and that's how high the hedge was previously. So basically it was just a line of trees, and what has been cut back through last summer, some of it is still out here on the path. So one of our forthcoming jobs is to get this lot chopped up, but this is for use for next winter rather than this, so it'll give it at least one summer to dry out. What we also want to avoid doing next year is the mistake that we had this year, which is to actually get caught short in terms of the quantity of logs that we have. So we want all the logs chopped up before the autumn, so that we've got a supply that will last us through the whole of the October through to April period, and that way we're not having to chop them in the middle of the winter. It is Tuesday the 5th of March 2019. I'm in our little hay store here, and we put coal in last night to make sure that she wasn't being bothered by the billies, and she was due soon. We just didn't know when, but you might be able to hear we have some babies. They've just been born this morning. I came back to check on coal. I put her back here in the hay store after I fed them this morning, and just come back to make sure she's got water, and there's 2 little babies here, 2 little girls. So she's cleaned them up nicely, and at the minute she's standing back a bit, but there she is. But 2 little girls, and given the colour of the light coloured one, it's a sandy colour, and that almost certainly means that Perky is the daddy. It's early afternoon now, and we are encountering a problem, and basically coal has rejected the babies, so it looks like we're going to have to raise them by hand, so we're going to have to employ a lot of these. So there are the babies, and we've already had 1 bottle feed from us, well, actually 2 bottle feeds. We've also milked coal a little bit as well, because it's important that they have the mother's milk in the first few days, because that's where they get their antibodies from. So, and I think they're already starting to recognise me as mummy. This is Daddy here. This is Perky, and you can see from this little one. This one here. She's a bit of a sandy colour, and that's almost certainly being picked up from Dad. Perky here. Here's Daddy. Go on, down you get. There's a good boy. Oh, Perky. So he is after the bottle again. As you can see, Cole is in the Land Rover, as indeed are the two babies who are over there. And it's just a precaution taking Cole and the babies to the vets, just to have them checked out. Well, we're back home now. Pleased to say that Cole was fine, no problems identified, and the kids are fine as well. But they're staying in the house tonight. But through the day, for the next few days, through the day, they'll be on the allotment with the other goats. Night times, they'll be back here in the house. It is Sunday the 21st of April 2019. We're visiting a plot of land within only about 10-15 minutes walk of our house, which is for sale. It's 2.5 acres. It's near Streetgate, which is the next village down from ours, and it's agricultural land. And we were sent the details about it last week. And it's a lot bigger than I expected, and having had a quick look around it, this would be ideal for our goats. The question is, would this be realistic for us to take this on, not just as grazing land, but as land for growing crops as well? As I say, it is much bigger than we expected. And if we could get the goats on here, maybe some sheep and some pigs, have part of it for beehives, some of it for growing crops. Also, we could have the site split so that we got the goats on one area, livestock on one area, and allowing the other area to grow, and then we can swap them around. There is an awful lot we could do with this site. The question is, are we ready to take the plunge? Tuesday the 21st of May 2019. It's about 5:15 in the morning, and what on earth are we doing up and about at that time of the day? Well, we're off to collect another swarm. David did most of the hard graft for it last night. He got the swarm into the swarm box, but he left it where it was because not all the bees were in the box. So hopefully they all now are, and it's will be ready just to pick up and then be taken to our allotment to be put into a hive. Well, we've arrived somewhere in the depths of County Durham, and we just checked the bee box, the swarm box. It's fine, all the bees are in it, so just a case of collecting it and taking it back to Sunnyside. Well, we're now back at the allotment, and we've added the swarm to the middle hive. Now, last week we added a swarm to that middle hive. We came back an hour later and it was gone. So hopefully we aren't having the same problem this time, and that those clusters of bees will go into the middle hive. Well, it's now 8:30 in the morning. The sun's a bit higher and it's now warmer. In fact, you can actually see my shadow there. And it looks as though the swarm has settled down. There's a few out on the front, but the big cluster that was on the neighbouring hive there is now gone, and it looks like on the entrance there the bees that are outside are going in. So, hopefully, we've rehoused this swarm and it is happy to stay where it is. Unlike last week. Well, it's now 6 o'clock in the evening and there's still a lot of activity around the hive, so it certainly looks as though bees are going in and out, so definitely taken to their new home. So it was worth getting up at 8 o'clock in the morning, 5 o'clock in the morning for this. It is Friday the 7th of June 2019. As you can see, I'm in the kitchen and it's evening time now, and I have been making bean burgers, broad bean burgers. Now this is the burger mix that I'm using. I got a bag of broad beans out of the freezer as we attempt to try and use up the contents of the freezer to create space there. So they've been boiled up along with some chopped and then mashed up. Added some chopped onion and some breadcrumbs and 3 eggs to bind it all together. And eggs we're going to have a bit of a glut of over the next 2 weeks, because the farm shop that we sell them through is on holiday for the next 2 weeks. So we are eating eggs like nobody's business. And we're going to have with that a quail egg salad. And again, we have a massive glut of quail eggs, so urgently need to get them used up. But the burger mix I'm going to shape into burgers, and we'll be having it for dinner tonight. I've added in a bit of paprika and cayenne pepper to give them a bit of a kick. It is Monday the 22nd of July 2019. It's a lovely summer evening. Bit of a breeze blowing now, but we're on the we're expecting over the next few days to have some really hot weather. So we need to check out our livestock to make sure that they're not affected by that. But one thing that Snow, our big billy goats, our biggest of our billy goats, has been suffering from recently has been his horn stub, which was growing round as a coil. It was meant to have been burnt off when he was a baby, but it didn't quite work properly. So this stub kept growing, and as I say, it turned round in a coil, and it would started to cut into his head. So this afternoon we had the not particularly pleasant job of having to saw off half of his horn stub, so he bled a bit, but it got it away from this sort of cut that it was making into his head. So he's not happy with us at the minute, because he particularly did not like being sprayed with the antiseptic after we'd finished doing the cutting. So there he is, and as you can see on his head there, that is the horn that's been cut off, and just below it is the where his cut was. He's being a bit more friendly now, because normally he loves his fuss, so he was keeping his distance earlier. But that should heal now, and we'll put some more antiseptic on it shortly. But hopefully it'll be a while yet before we have to cut the horn again. One of the characteristics I think we remember this year by is the amount of swarms that we've had from the bees, and we started the year with effectively 4 full hives, and it was kind of 4.5 actually, but the half hive was a very weak hive, and we think that the queen had died, and therefore the colony itself was dying off. So when the bees started swarming, we added a swarm to that colony, and it's now quite a strong colony. But I was thinking that last week maybe we had actually had the last of our swarms, because we had by then arrived at from 4 to, it had gone to 14 hives, which was meant that we were salvaging whatever equipment that we could to build the new hives. And then this afternoon we had another swarm. So I've already housed the swarm. I collected it in this nuke box, and it will have to stay in this nuke box for a few days, because we are putting together what equipment we can to build full hives. Now, we've actually gone through everything that we've got at home to find what bits that we've got. So back home we've got enough parts, if we join them all up together, to make a hive. So over the next few days we'll put that equipment together, but that nuke box that I've just shown you will be moved over to our far side plot in the next few minutes, and that nuke box already has 5 old frames in it, which the bees will use. But when we've built the new hive, we'll take those frames out of that nuke box and add them to the new hive at the location that we've already put the nuke box, so that the bees still come back to the same plot, same site, but that means they'll also be housed in a proper size hive. One other bit of news to catch up with is that Spot here is now very pregnant. I don't think she's due for a few days yet, maybe a week to 10 days. And the reason why I think that she's close but not close enough is because her udders haven't quite fully swollen out yet. As you can see there they are. So I think they've got a few days to go yet. Right, I've now moved the nuke box to our second apiary. Now this apiary now has 9 hives in it, and they're all swarm hives from this year. So the bees have been really on swarm overdrive this year. Now that's been useful for us to be able to build up our stock of bee colonies and hives. Massive danger for next year is that if they are at the same rate of hive of colony reproduction, then we will need dozens more new hives. So we're going to have to look at this over the coming months, get the new hive equipment in and get it all made up ready, and we'll have these empty hives around the site, so they'll act as bait hives. But one of the things that we're thinking of doing is actually next year, if we have so many swarms, that we will actually need to start selling some of these so that we can expand the number of beekeepers that are around in the area. But anyway, as I say, we've now moved the small hive, the nuke that we had. This is it here. So we've moved that over to this site, and I've got it standing temporarily on the swarm box, and as you can see, some of the bees are out there. Now this has 5 frames in it, and when we bring the new hive, this will all be replaced, and the frames that are in here already will be moved to the new hive, and there'll be another another 6 or 7 frames in the swarm in the new hive, so it will be able to expand out and grow in size, because this is really just it's a nuke, so it's used for artificially developing new hives, so it's just like a baby hive. So we started with effectively 4 hives, 4 good, healthy, solid hives, good colonies in there, and at the moment we now have 15 hives, which is the most that we've ever had. Now I don't expect them all to survive the winter. Some might be too weak and just die off. Others we'll spot that they're weak and we can merge them with other hives. So next year, at the start of the spring, I'm not necessarily expecting us to have 15 hives, but you never know. It's been quite an interesting year for beekeeping. It is Saturday the 17th of August 2019. As you can see, I'm in the kitchen, and today I'm using up a load of fruit purees that we've made recently or have come out of the freezer to make them into ketchup. And this is the first one that we're doing. This is going to be apple and blackcurrant ketchup. Now, I've sort of searched around for blackcurrant ketchup recipes and really just couldn't find any, so I'm kind of making this one up as I go along. So in the pan we've got a litre of puree, apple and blackcurrant puree, about 300 grams of sugar, teaspoonful of cayenne pepper, teaspoonful of salt, and a tablespoonful of mustard seeds. So what we're going to do now is add in half a litre of red wine vinegar, which is possibly a little bit too much, so we may have to add in a bit more puree shortly, but we'll put the heat under that and see how that takes off. Well, it's definitely turning out to be one of those make it up as you go along recipes, because it was a little bit too thin, so I've put in all the plum puree that I was planning to use today. So I had hoped that I'll be able to make a plum and chilli ketchup, but that's off the cards now, because it's all in the pan. So we'll let this come to the boil and then we'll simmer it to reduce it down a bit. So there we have it, 2 large bottles and 2 small ones, and of course the proof is always in the eating, in this case the licking. Ooh. Ooh. It is Saturday the 14th of September 2019. We're here at the Bows Show. This is the one annual event that we attend where we go in for all the competitions. Last year we did very well because we won the best in competition in the industrial section, so we actually had a trophy for that, which I've just had to hand back because we only get it for a year. But we're here a bit early, so lots of people still coming in, but we've got all our entries in place. I've looked at some of the other entries, and let's say I'm not expecting to repeat last year's success. So still lots of entries to come along. However, this is the lone loaf of bread, which is mine, and it only seems to be one entry for this one, because I'm the only person listed as entering this. So I don't know whether that means I win first, second and third. This is my apple pie, but as you can see I didn't properly glaze it. Well. And then along here is my flan. Don't think I'll be winning any prizes with that, especially when you compare them to these brilliant examples. That's my cherry vodka. As you can see, everybody else has used posh bottles. And also an awful lot of entries in this category. it has now gone 1 o'clock in the afternoon, and that means that the judging is now over and the marquee has been reopened. And surprise, surprise, there was only one entry in the bread making competition, and it was mine, and that meant I got first prize. So there we have the loaf of bread, but next to it is its certificate for first prize, and then look what we've got here. A first prize for our cheese scones. And not just any old first prize, because we've got best in scones, all categories, which comes with a rosette. Now, we've never before come anywhere near close to winning any prize ever in all the years we've been coming to the Bow Show for our scones. Until now. Because not only did we win first prize for the cheese scones, we've won first prize for the fruit scones as well. It's quite funny because I was thinking this morning, I wasn't really hopeful of getting any prizes, and the thought had passed through my mind that maybe in future we'll probably not bother doing the scones because we'd never ever won before. Now we've got a trophy to defend. It's Friday the 18th of October 2019. If you'd been watching us in April, you would have seen us visiting a field near to where we live, a 2.5 acre field. And you know that we put in a bid for it. It's now ours. It took about 6 months to come through, but 2 weeks ago today, it became ours. And I'm on it now. So we're really excited about this. It's a huge step up for us from just being reliant on the allotments that we have. But this field gives us the opportunity to go into livestock more and into more crop growing, but we're looking at providing crops that we can sell as well. So crops that are reasonably low maintenance, such as horseradish, rhubarb and so on, which is a bit of a niche market. And we'll be looking at to grow that sort of stuff. But there's going to be loads of space here. And there's options for all sorts of things. So we want to be wildlife friendly, so we'll be putting in hedgehog shelters, bat boxes. We want the hedgehogs here because they eat the bugs, so we want them working for us. We provide them with a home and food. All they have to do to earn their keep is to eat all the bugs. So here we are. Big ventures ahead. Really excited. Sadly, been really busy over the last couple of weeks, so this is only the second time I've been able to get along here to view it, and the grass has been cut as well by the previous owner, but unfortunately we weren't able to get it in as a hay crop. So for this autumn and winter we will still be buying in hay, but next year that problem is solved. So we're thinking paddocks for pigs and goats, and obviously lots of room to grow crops, plus this top end here we'll use for hay. Now you can see the fence along here, and it doesn't have a hedge, and I'm mad keen on hedges because they are excellent food sources if you're going foraging, but they're good for shelter for the livestock, but also they are good for the wildlife as well. So we're going to look to have a hedge planted right along this line here, and we're going to try and plant it up with traditional hedgerow species such as hawthorn, hazel, elder and so on. But it's quite a length of fencing which needs to be planted up. whereas the rest of the site, the other two sides, are already have hedging of sort in amongst along the boundary. We're also keen on putting in some ponds, and again it's for the wildlife. The frogs, toads and newts are good to have on our land because they too will eat the bugs, and they'll also be part of a food chain as well. So we'll be looking at digging some ponds soon, but we need to work out how we can get them to be filled naturally by rainwater. There's no streams run over the site, but there is one that runs down the edge, or it's a ditch. But I'm not sure yet whether we would need to get Environment Agency permission to divert any of the water. So we're not going to do that. We're just going to look at trying to get the ponds filled from the water that comes from the rainwater that falls on the field itself. Well, I've always wanted to say it, so here goes. Get off my land. Right, that's probably the last time I'll use that joke. It is Wednesday the 6th of November 2019. I'm over on our far side plot, and this is where we keep the nannies. And basically at the minute it's one nanny and 4 kids. We're not having too good a time at the minute because we think they've eaten something toxic, in fact very toxic. We think they might have got a little bit of rhododendron in with one of their feeds. So a few days ago, about 3 days ago, Sunday evening, we spotted that Gertie and Danny were not too well. So this is Danny and Gertie, and they were both vomiting on Sunday evening, so we decided just to monitor things until Monday, and then, but I did check on them right through the night, and at 4 o'clock in the morning I spotted that Sandy here was vomiting as well. Again, we took this in just to check how things go through Monday, but on Monday evening I wasn't too happy with the state of Sandy or Danny, but Gertie looked as if she had improved. So Sandy and Danny went along to the vet, and we took them there at about 10:30. Jolene, who's our youngest kid, and her mum Spot were completely unaffected. But when we got to the vet, it looked as though Sandy was improving, but Danny here was in quite a bit of distress, and she was given medication, and she came home. We decided not to give Sandy any because she seemed to be improving. And then yesterday we spotted that the goat seemed to be okay in the morning, but they then got a bit worse in the evening, but nothing to be alarmed about. But I'm still not happy about the state that they're in. Gertie there is just not interested in eating, even though she ate last night. She's not interested now. And poor little Danny here, she's come out of it the worst, and she is still vomiting. So we've booked the vet for 5 o'clock tonight, so it's going to be another trip for them in the Land Rover. Obviously, because these are livestock animals, then you can't just phone up your local vet who deals with dogs, cats and budgerigars. They have to be a proper trained livestock vet, so there's one firm called Livestock that we use for all the livestock issues that we've got. So as I say, we've got the two of them booked in this evening at 5 o'clock. Well, here we are now at the vet with the two of them, Gertie there and Danny. Tried to get her some vitamins. Just been weighed as well, and Danny has lost a bit of weight. I've got to say, she's the one I'm the most concerned about. We are home now from the vets, and we've decided to put Gertie back over on the in the goat paddock with the other nannies and kids. Less concerned about her, but we're more concerned about Danny. So we are keeping her in overnight, and we've got some intravenous saline injections to give her to make sure that she doesn't get dehydrated. Interestingly, she did eat a little bit of mash. It is sort of a wet bran that we gave her when she got back here. Now, I'm hoping she's not going to be spending the night here in the front room where she is at the moment. Got a box set up for her with a sheet and a bit of hay and the bran as well in the hallway. And if she's okay, then we will take her back home tomorrow. And of course, by home I actually mean take her to the goat paddock with the other kids and nannies. It's Thursday, the 7th of November, 2019. It's late in the afternoon now. It's just about to get to dark. But today hasn't been a good day. We had Danny in the house, our little black goat. The kid at the house overnight after the visit to the vet. Gertie, our other goat, or kid who was ill, she wasn't too bad, so we put her back here with the other kids last night. And Danny had a very bad night. She was clearly getting worse. She was quite distressed, and this morning, with no sign of her getting better, in fact she got much worse, I took the decision that we had to put her to sleep. So we did an emergency appointment with the vet, and she passed away in the car on my lap on my way to the vet. So it's been very upsetting for us all. And with Gertie, we're still not out of the woods yet. The signs are positive, but she did eat a little bit of apple this morning. She wasn't interested in the privet, and at lunchtime she was tucking into some hay that I gave them, and that's good. Pleased about that. No sign of her vomiting today either. But we've had this before. Early in the week, it seemed as though she was recovering and eating. So we've just got to see how she gets on. But as I say, today it's been quite an upsetting day for us. So that's Gertie there, with her head just showing out of the door of the shed. I'm going to give them some hay in a few minutes, but it'll be a bit too dark to film it. So hopefully by tomorrow she'll definitely be stable and fully recovered, but we'll see about that tomorrow. Well, I decided against hay because I spotted that there was some comfrey and grass still growing on the allotment here, so I picked that and having that instead, and as you can see, Gertie is chomping away on a comfrey leaf there, and is joining in the feed, so good sign, but I'm only going to be counting ourselves as out of the woods if she is like this tomorrow as well. So I might well do a check on her later this evening, make sure that she's okay. It is Friday the 20th of December 2019. As you can see, I'm in the kitchen, and what I'm doing at the minute is making a pickle. We had a load of cucumbers and marrows which were urgently needing to be used up. So I've chopped them up. Also chopped up a few onions as well, which is why my eyes are a bit watery at the moment. And they've gone into the bowl here, and I've salted them, and they'll be left to stand for about 24 hours or so that the salt extracts a lot of the moisture from the marrow and the cucumber and the onions. And tomorrow they'll be rinsed off, and then we'll pickle them, but they need to stand for at least 24 hours. This is our garage, and we use it for storing lots of our food. We've got 4 freezers in here, so all 4 of them working away at the moment. Now, when I was looking for onions to put into the pickle, I discovered this sack hanging up, and I thought for some reason it was shallots, until I put my hand in and got a handful out, because I was hoping if we had any shallots they could go in the pickle, and I discovered that they were actually sweet chestnuts. We certainly haven't picked any sweet chestnuts this year. They are almost certainly ones that I picked in London a year ago in Crystal Palace Park, and they came back with me on a trip to London I had to do, and they've obviously been forgotten about. So I opened 1 or 2 of them and found that they were quite dry and hard. However, as an experiment, I've boiled up a few of them to see if it softens them up, and see if, once softened, they are edible. Well, the good news is that boiling them has certainly made them edible. I tried one a couple of minutes ago and found that it worked, but I'm going to give it another go. So here goes. They're not in perfect condition, obviously, but I'm not going to waste them. One of the things that being self-sufficient encourages us to do is to use everything, waste nothing. So we can actually have some sweet chestnuts at Christmas, which is only 5 days away. So that's it for 2019. As you can see, I'm here on the small holding. This is going to be the big challenge for us in the years to come, is to get all of this into production, but to do it sustainably, to do it in a way that benefits the environment as well. So if you're interested, then keep following us.